Hi, welcome to Beit Birth. I'm glad you found my site. My name is Jennifer. I am the birth educator, the doula, and the lactation counselor here at Beit Birth. Many moms find my website earlier on in their pregnancy, and hopefully that's the case with you, because if it is, I have a tip for you. Your choice of provider, whether it be an OB, a family physician, or a midwife, is probably going to be the most important decision that you make in helping you to achieve the birth that you would like. So I always recommend starting the conversation early with your provider about your birth wishes to find out whether or not they're going to be supportive of the birth you would like to have. So what types of questions do you ask your care provider? I always recommend that you ask open-ended questions that they can't just give you a simple yes or no answer to. This will give you a much better idea of how they handle birth. So question number one, you can simply ask, what's your birth philosophy and how do you handle labor? This will give you some great information. Another question, when do you feel it's appropriate to induce labor? You may or may not be aware, but the statistics on spontaneous labor is that 50% of first-time moms will go into labor on their own by 5 days after their due date. And guess what? The other 50% go into labor after that. So you need to have the liberty, if you would like labor to start on its own, to go as long as you need to in that process. So ask your physician, when do you feel like it's appropriate to induce labor? Some may be really upfront with you and say, we don't go past 40 weeks, we don't go past 41 weeks, but you may have some that say, I'm comfortable with 41 weeks. But if you haven't gone into labor yet and you really would like to have the time to do so, we can do some extra monitoring of the baby, and as long as the baby looks okay, you could potentially go up to 42 weeks or even a day past that. Those are two very different answers. When do you feel a C-section is appropriate is another great question to ask. If you think you might want to have an unmedicated birth, it's important to know that your care provider supports that. So you can ask, when was your last natural or unmedicated birth? I think I had one 6 months ago. Is very different from, oh, I just did one last week. If that's the type of birth that you want, you need a cheerleader in your corner, not just someone who is tolerant of that choice that you are making. If you don't have any idea of where to go to find a care provider, if you feel like you're getting some answers from yours that's making you uncomfortable, send me an email, give me a call. I have some local care providers in our area that I really enjoy working with. Maybe you don't know what type of a birth you want. I highly recommend the podcast, The Birth Hour. It's a great way to educate yourself about birth. She covers all sorts of births, from home births to birth center births, hospital births, medicated, unmedicated. You get to hear these mothers tell their stories. You get to find out what they wish they would have done differently, or what they're really happy with some of the decisions they made. So it's a great way to educate yourself while you're doing other things. I also offer a 4-week childbirth class series. We meet for 3 hours at a time, typically 4 weeks in a row, where we cover how labor starts and normally progresses on its own. Also, important choices you may have to make near the end of your pregnancy. We cover options you have in the hospital you might not know that you have. And we also spend a lot of time practicing comfort measures. So if you think that's something you might be interested in, you can get more details on the Childbirth Education tab on my website, or feel free to call me or email me. The same if you might be interested in my doula services, email me or call me and we'll set up a time to meet and talk so you can get some more information. In the meantime, I hope these tips have been helpful. Have a blessed day, and I hope to meet you at some point.